Quick update on the ProStar 90. Overall, it's doing well, as it often goes with mixed reefs. Some corals are thriving and others are really struggling. And there's been enough things kind of popping up to where I'm starting to question some of my parameters. I do have the Trident, so alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium are pretty stable. I'm not worried about those, but I ran out of reagents on my nitrate and phosphate checkers, HANA checkers, and so I got these Salifert kits here to test those, and there's an imbalance for sure. The nitrate's coming back around 25, which is elevated, but not too concerning. However, the phosphate, I've checked this a couple times over the last few days, and it's pretty consistently at 0. So definitely an imbalance there with around 25 nitrate and 0 phosphate. This ACAN down here, it was a relatively newer piece and it just didn't make it. Not exactly sure why. There could be a lot of reasons. I know it's not just 0 phosphate killed my ACAN. And so that's kind of a mystery to me, but other things are just, again, kind of concerning, where this acro here was doing pretty well and it's starting to bleach out a little bit. This style is usually pretty extended, but there's a emerald crab right there. It kind of touched it and bothered it, so it sucked in, but really he's just eating the bubble algae around it. You can see on the rocks there. However, it was encrusting, the silo was, and that has stopped, which is a little concerning. The base of the slimer there, I think, is just due to a mix of shadowing and then also that anemone I need to move. I don't think that's really parameter related because the rest of it's looking really, really good. So like I said, nothing of major concern right now, but I do want to go ahead and try to get my nutrients back in balance. So what I'm gonna do is dose phosphate, which I've never done before. I bought this at one point and never used it. But I do want to, like I keep saying, get them back in balance. So we will dose a little neophos and see if overall things start to improve with some of the corals that are struggling. All right, so the instructions say that the results will be most significant when it's being dosed with Microbacter 7. I don't have any Microbacter 7. I don't know what they mean by most significant. It says, determine your current phosphate, mine's 0. It says, apply neophos as directed to raise the concentration to about 0.02 ppm. Do not exceed 0.04 ppm. So to calculate your dosage, you multiply your tank capacity. Mine is about 63 in the display and about 13 in the sump, so we're about, say, 76. So you multiply that by your desired phosphate, so 0.02, and then you multiply that by 3.785, and that gives you the milliliters that you want to dose. So we'll do 76 times 0.02 times 3.785. That gives me 5.75 milliliters. So we will add probably 5 milliliters with phosphate. I certainly don't want to overdo it. So we'll do 5 milliliters and check back in a few hours and see where we're at. Lucky for me, it says a capful is 5 milliliters, so that's pretty easy. We'll do 1 capful. So I'm still getting 0 phosphate after dosing the neophos. Granted, I dosed a little under what it recommended, but I don't want to overdose it. And I think I'm going to pause on any additional neophos. So the reason I'm not going to dose any more neophos is I was actually listening to a podcast the other day. It was very timely. It was the Beyond the Reef podcast. And he had a guest, Leo Den Brayan is his name, and he owns Leonardo's Reef over in the Netherlands. Doesn't ship to the US, but if you go online and check out his stuff, he's very, very successful keeping acros. And they were talking about phosphate actually, and his phosphate is very low, but he does have detectable phosphate and thinks it's very important, as do I, to have it in the system. And he had just mentioned,
when I, notice that my phosphate gets low, he says that, I don't dose any additives or anything like that. I just simply feed more. And again, he's very, very successful. So I think I'm going to go that route. Probably a little safer too, just to up my feeding. I typically will do a half cube to a cube of mysis a day since there's only a few fish in there. But maybe I'll try to mix in some, other types of food. Something else to account for here, or at least take note of, is I do have some bryopsis in the tank. It's not overtaking or plaguing the tank by any means, and I am currently attacking it with Flux RX. But of course, any algae, especially hair algae or bryopsis, will contain or hold on to that phosphate. And so sometimes when you get a 0 phosphate reading, it's because it's bound up in that algae. And so although I'm getting a 0 reading, I might actually have some in the tank. It's just all the more reason not to add more chemicals, especially because, again, I am already dosing Flux RX. I want to stay away from dumping a whole bunch of chemicals in the tank. So although I still am getting that 0 reading, I'm thinking there probably is some in the tank, and I'll just continue to feed a little bit heavier. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on it. So kind of an anticlimactic experiment there with the Neophos. But at the end of the day, that's probably the smartest move and frankly the safest. So we're going to do that. And to make up for this somewhat of a boring video, I actually have a few videos coming out here soon that I'm really excited about. If you follow our Instagram page, you saw a preview of what's to come. So if you don't follow that page, make sure you do that. And of course, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss it. It's, spoiler alert, going to be a bit of a build video and something, again, I'm really pumped about, and I can't wait to get out there. And so I'm working on that kind of behind the scenes now. Again, like, comment, and subscribe, and you'll see what I mean here real soon.